Hi, everyone. I am Melissa McKay. I am a developer advocate with JFrog, and I'm here in Sweden, in Stockholm, at the JFocus conference. And sitting next to me, I have Rafael, and he has donated his time to this podcast, hoping that we can have an interesting discussion about things that you are involved in and passionate about. So, how about introduce yourself to folks? Let everyone know, why you're here at JFocus and what your interest is in this conference.
Yeah, hi, I'm Rafael. Just a short train ride from Oslo. Um, so yeah, I like to come here. It's close and done a lot of talks here. And this year I've been talking for the first time about not my technical work. I think most people relate to me by my work on Byte Buddy and Mockito and the open source space. But today I was talking about my day job, where I'm a consultant at the Norwegian Tax Authority, and done a big maintenance project there for the last 5 years, and I talked about our struggles with like maintaining a big code base that a big team wrote, and that we with a small group of developers had to keep alive, and also not only keep alive but also to change and modernize over time to adopt to new taxation rules. And the journey we had, which is basically the opposite of what many people talk about at conferences, that this new technology solves this issue and that issue, but instead we turned a bit around and made sure that we only choose boring technology and keep things simple, so that people that come right out of university that run Maven for the first time in our in our project
I,
have a
c-
chance to actually do something.
I can only imagine this resonated a lot with the audience. I bet you come across a lot of people that have these experiences, and this is an interesting topic to explore.
Yeah, I think it's a common issue that we who are experienced often forget that while we might be bored with the stuff that we have that still works fine, but isn't new or interesting to us anymore. That other people who come into tech and are new to tech and maybe don't have the lifestyle of being a developer where you have to code in the evenings and on the weekends. A lot of people just want to do a 9 to 5 job, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And they don't care about the new Kafka dispatching mechanism you want to build into the project. They're fine with like a regular feed poller that runs in a single thread synchronously.
Right. So this brings to mind something, and this seems to be a recurring topic that has come up for me over the last couple of days here at JFocus, is this idea that there's always something new. There's always something new. It's one of the reasons I like this industry and working in this industry is there's always something new to learn. Otherwise, I get bored. But on the other hand, we have graduates that are coming out of university that they're very new. Like they don't have our 10, 15, 20 years of experience with all of these other technologies, and they don't know how we got to where we are today. So in a situation like this, where you've got maybe um, a legacy code base or older technologies, would you recommend what would you recommend for like a new graduate? Do you think they should take a position like that? I'm just curious what your opinion is on that.
Yes and no. I mean, people are very different, and I mean, tech recruiting is hard as it is, right? And there's a lot of newly graduated people who are really good already, who live this lifestyle, who love coding and do nothing else, and don't want to do anything else, right?
Right.
And you will be able to find these people rarely. And if you're a tech startup and you need very adapt people, then that's maybe the kind of job you should go for as a new graduate. But I also feel like a lot of people, they have lives of their own, they have hobbies and
Yes.
family. I mean, I see it with myself.
Obligations.
Yeah, kids,
Yes.
whatever it is, and there's a much bigger market of these developers. And I think it's important also that we normalize that that's fine, right?
Yes.
So, and I like, if once you're in a bigger project, you will mostly have these kinds of people. And I mean, our experience also is that people come in and they stay maybe like around 4 years.
Uh-huh.
And before we simplified, like I think it took people a year to get productive on the code base because there's so much stuff in it. And if people stay for 3 years, then you lose 33% of their total productivity to just learning the stack, right? And
Right.
maybe it's a good like first exercise to get to know a lot of things, but from a project perspective, it's important that people get up to speed quickly.
Yes.
And I think also like if you don't frustrate people so much they stay motivated. I think also like talk a lot about diversity and why it's hard to keep people and tag minorities and women also like I think it's because we often produce this obligation to live this lifestyle where you always learn, you're always keeping on. But the reality is really it's not necessary and it's not healthy either. So it's good to like let people play, but to also restrict that things don't get out of hand. I think
Yeah.
it's important to find a balance to what interests people, but what's learnable for the next generation.
That makes sense. And I suppose it's very important to manage those expectations as early as possible. Already set your limits because like you said, there's so much more out there you could do. You could work all night. You could spend, all of your time learning the next technology and the next one and the one that's coming out
Yeah,
tomorrow.
exactly.
But making sure that you have boundaries that are healthy is very important.
And you might encounter problems in your project that might be solved best by introducing a document database, for example, right? But it can also be solved by using an SQL database. And if you already use SQL and everybody knows SQL, then maybe using an SQL database, despite not being the primary approach to this to solving this problem, there's like a balance of second best.
Yeah.
So finding this in a especially if a project needs to live for many years, like a taxation system, it's way too expensive to build a new one all 5 years, and especially since it's public money, you shouldn't waste it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you bring up a really good point because, and I'm sure, not just that organization, but others as well,
Yeah.
there's this aspect that you do need to be responsible with your resources. And like you said, if you have a team that is familiar with a particular framework, you're actually going to get more out of them more, quickly than starting from scratch on something new.
It's also, I mean, this sometimes bothers me with developers, and I mean, I'm guilty as well of that. That we're not always aware of the costs that we impose because we are well paid people, right? And we use up a lot of funding in organizations that aren't primarily tech focused. So, and especially if like we mess up the taxation system, then of course it needs to be fixed, and then the government needs to bring in people and pay for whatever it costs.
Right.
And that money will, of course, lag somewhere else because it's budgets. And if we overdraw our budget has to be cut somewhere else because there's just that much money.
Exactly.
And if we are able to keep a simple tech stack and maintain it with few people, then maybe we can digitalize more services or we can spend on other things.
Yeah, it is a big challenge, really. It's a different type of thinking to make something simple.
Yeah.
And it's a different skill set to be able to do that. And it's something to be proud of.
Yeah, exactly. And you can buy software that's fully functional, maybe not as shiny and perfect in the way of it, how it performs. Maybe it's a bit slower as it could be because you didn't use like the reactive asynchronous web dispatching, so it uses a bit more resources. But you build it with half the team size and half the time, and that's of course a much cheaper software, and maybe that's economic. So like this thought has become more important to me.
Yes.
Especially since I am more and more involved in how the money is spent, right, the more along in my career.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, one thing I can say just from my experience is you have all these new things come along, and yes, some of them have very large advantages, but nothing's perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
You're trading one set of problems for a different set of problems, and sometimes it might be more worthwhile to deal with the problems find your ways of dealing with that, which I'm sure with the technologies that you're using, you're well aware of the issues that are there and know how to adapt and work around those.
Yeah, exactly. Or some issues you can just ignore and it's fine, like because no software ever is done in a way. So just keep the extensibility possible, and you're basically already running a successful project.
Right. Well, we're in the full throes of the second day here at JFocus. We've got the rest of today and a part of a little bit tomorrow. Do you have any plans outside of the conference? Are you? This is such a beautiful weather, a beautiful time of year.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I'd love to stay a bit longer, but I have my 2-day allowance from being away from the family.
Yes.
I'm gonna jump in the next train in an hour and go back home so I can get up with the kids tomorrow. And redeem myself for my absence.
Well, I'm so glad that you could be here. I know it can be difficult for speakers to get the time off or the time that they need to arrive and be able to participate like this. And I know that for most of us, we're pretty exhausted when we're done too. So I hope that when you get back, get some rest as well.
I hope so too.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
This was a great conversation. It was really good to meet you. I hope that we
Thanks,
cross
likewise.
paths
Yeah,
again. And
next year, same place.
next year, maybe JFocus next year. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.